Hello and welcome, my connoisseurs of movies, TV show, and literature. Are you ready to shake things up? You may call me Loop Gallery for those of you who are new here. And for those of you who are new, you are here to feast on my opinion of all things movie, TV, and book. And yes, I do have new shades. I love random bells and sounds. But as has been a staple since the start of this little channel, it is another month, another full moon, which means another bit of werewolf lore. And this month, in other news, we will be taking a bite out of The Howling. This classic from 1981. One of the first well, not one of the first, it's the first multi-werewolf movie that I've seen. It was also rather risque and dirty, having a few scenes filmed in adult shops. And because I cannot see for the life of me through these glasses, I'm back to being my normal little Loop Gallery self. Now, for those of you who have not seen The Howling, it is about a news anchor, played by Dee Williams, who is led to an adult store arcade, which is where you go to watch little movies for pay and in the privacy of your own little booth. But she is led there because a murderer truly thought she could understand him and appreciate him for who, what, when, where, why, and how he is. She showed sympathy and compassion for him. My fur's getting in my face. The downsides to being a Loop Gallery. But he felt like he could show her who and what he really was. The instant she walked into that adult store, most of the male clients fled. I'm still confused by that even nowadays. I mean, yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, they can't know. If I'm in that store, it means I have the same needs as you, fool. But hey, to each their own. And if you want to get embarrassed by people shopping in the same store as you because they're not the same as you, that is on you. Well, the murderer is a fella named Eddie. And Eddie was a werewolf. He started to shift into his wolf form in front of her, causing her to freak out. Now, Dee's anchor's name is Karen. And this was way before oh, that's such a Karen. So, I'm going to call her Dee because she's not an annoying bossy, minding everybody else's business but her own character. Which is kind of sad that such a rather pretty name got turned into such a foul meaning. How times change. Well, Dee screams, which draws the cops closer to her. The cops open fire. Eddie drops like a stone. Dee is rescued. And she becomes camera shy. She closes off what she was seeing in that arcade. Well, her hubby listens to a local psychiatrist, played by Patrick McNee, and sends her to a retreat called the Colony, where she is to rest and relax and try to process her trauma. He sends her to the Colony so she can rest, relax, and try to process what happened in that adult store in a place of safety and comfort, but more to the point, to see if she is a threat to the residents of the community. Their first night there, Dee and her hubby Bill are invited to a barbecue. Bill irritates the daylights out of all the locals when he says, "I don't eat meat." The sheriff, a guy named Earl, and a guy named TC, and then TC's sister, all make themselves known and all show various degrees of either interest, disinterest, or in TC's sister's case, straight up arousal for Bill. But after the barbecue ends, Dee and her hubby go back to their cabin. Dee has a horrible nightmare, which jerks her awake. But that nightmare is compounded by the howling of wolves. As with a lot of werewolf movies, someone is mauled. Though instead of killing him, the werewolf who mauls Bill, yes, spoilers, they leave him alive on purpose. Because the first thing the wolf who wanted to change him changed him to suit her needs. Well, Dee's buddy from the city shows up, and I can't remember her name, and I didn't bother looking it up because you have to watch it. She shows up and she's like, "Oh my gosh, Bill, I'm so sorry. I totally forgot that you don't eat meat." And there he is, chowing down on the meat she brought. He's like, "It's all right. I get hungry enough, I'll eat anything." And both women are like, what? That ain't right. Well, that friend decides she's going to stay and help Dee. And the problem arises when Bill wanders off in the middle of the night and meets up with TC's sister. Do not let... This is one of the few werewolf movies I'd say don't let anyone under 16 watch. Kind of like American Werewolf in London. Because this one has a straight up sex scene between Bill and TC's sister. But during that scene, they transform into wolves. It's actually kind of cool how they do that. They pull away and they show them in shadow. And thus, Bill becomes a werewolf, just like everybody else in the community. Well, Dee's friend is doing the investigating, and she finds Eddie's home. She had investigated Eddie's home, and she found a drawing. And while she was at the commune, at this community, she found the vantage point with which Eddie had drawn one of his images. So she immediately called her man and said, oh my gosh, this is what's happening. Eddie was from here. Well, Eddie, well, she calls her hubby and says, Eddie is from here. If those books we were reading are true, he's still alive because his corpse wasn't in the morgue. And while she's freaking out, Eddie walks into the room and takes out Dee's friend. It's very sad. But it was in watching full wolfy Eddie looking at Dee that prompted a very weird question in my writer's brain. What would happen if instead of backing down and cowering in fear when you have a werewolf bearing down on you, you reach up and very carefully put your hand on their cheek and just pet? No condescension, no fear, just a reverent awe of petting a werewolf. What would happen? If you know any movies where somebody actually shows compassion to a werewolf in that state, let me know. I would love to know. And if not, let me know if you haven't heard or seen any such thing, and I will do my best to write a convincing scene for it the way I think it should play out. But then I also think werewolves are only as bad as the human being that was transformed, just like vampires. But that's my opinion. You do not have to believe it or agree with it. And probably my favorite part of this whole movie is the end. And not because the movie's over, but because Dee decides, Dee and her male friend that saves her decide they need to warn the planet that werewolves are real. So, on national television, on the full moon, Dee starts to transform. And they're flashing between different people. Oh, pardon. And the reactions to what they're seeing. You have one guy grabbing the television guide, looking to see if they're on the right channel for the right thing. And then you hear a mom, what are you kids watching out there? The news! They're like, we're watching the news! And they cut to a bar after poor Dee is shot, and you hear a bunch of skeptics. Oh man, the things they can do with special effects these days. And one older gentleman's like, oh no, she was really turning into a werewolf and they shot her for it. And then they cut and end it on T.C.'s sister who survived what happened at the community, the little commune. And it's like, oh, that's cool. Now, I'm telling you this right now. If I can get my paws on the Howling 2 and Howling 3 marsupials, I will review them in a full moon, though so far I'm having trouble finding them. It's really sad. I want to see them so badly. But have you seen The Howling? Did you like it when you saw it? Did you see it way too young and it confused the daylights out of you? If you haven't seen it, will you watch it now as an adult? To again see the cultural shock between what was appropriate in the 1980s and what's appropriate now. It's amazing how far we've come in what you can and cannot show on television without sparking backlash. But kindness is the key to understanding. No. But kindness is the key to understanding, so be kind to me, be kind to each other in the comments, find the like button, and tend to whatever injuries it may have acquired through overuse throughout the week. Rescue the subscribe button from zombies, ring the bell so you can make your escape, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!